Hi everyone, welcome back to Box of Lights. We're playing John Company, 2nd edition, solo 1710 introductory scenario. It's first turn, and we're in the family phase. Chairman always goes first in this phase. The crown is chairman, they hold the chairman title, so we give them this title, this token. This can happen because you can get to the family phase without there being a chairman, because he's retired. So it's the previous chairman, effectively. So Crown is chairman, give them this title. That shows that they get to go first. They're holding the gavel during family phase. Family phase is when you get to take your action for the turn. And on your family board, you're choosing one of these 6 options. This is called an opportunity token. So during family phase, you can do one of these 6 things. You can enlist a writer, enlist an officer, seek a share, you can buy a shipyard, you can buy a workshop, and you can buy a luxury. And we've not talked about workshops and luxuries yet, but let me just do that quickly. Luxuries cost £4, workshops cost £5, so they are expensive. Luxuries just give you a flat 2 victory points, but they are subject to window tax. Look out for that, and they give you the luxury or the social enterprise icon in your play area. Remember, the power tree will award power for a number of these icons in your play area. Workshop, much the same, but this time the victory point only comes if the company fails. If the company is successful, you don't get any victory points. Luxuries don't suffer the same fate. However, workshops do give you £1 income every turn. There's a bonus phase at the end where you'll get bonuses. Okay, and they also give you 2 votes during the parliamentary phase when we're voting for laws. Okay. You can also use these when you're playing under deregulation. If you've got a private firm, you can invest workshops in your private firm. That's called an invested workshop. We won't be talking about that during this playthrough. All right, so there you go, luxuries and workshops. Workshops are good if you're concerned about the welfare of the company. If you think it might fail, then it's a good way to get some extra victory points. They generate income for you. They're workshops back at home, really. It's an alternative to trade. So instead of bringing in trade from India, you're using raw materials and developing products rather than importing them. Luxuries is a way to just invest your money in fancy hats and stuff back home in your stately home. Hence, it's subject to tax. So more points, but they can be costly. So more ways to win victory points. All right, what's the crown going to do? The crown gets to go first. So this is where we turn to the crown handbook for the first time. Now remember, we're sensitive to the crown's climate. Climate is lion. All we do is turn to family phase. Remember, we've skipped London seasons. We skip that. This is firms phase. We're going to skip that, and so on. So all the different phases have their own little section. And all it says is you look up the climate. It's lion. And crown will always take 2 of these actions, moving from left to right and skipping any that it can't perform, all right, until it's performed 2 actions. So first thing it's going to do from left to right is buy a shipyard and then enlist an officer. So those are the 2 actions. Remember, crown acts kind of like 2 players. So we're kind of like in this pseudo 3-player game, if you like. So 2 actions. Buy shipyard, enlist officer. If it couldn't afford a shipyard, maybe it didn't have enough money, shipyards cost £2. Enlisting officers is free. So if it couldn't buy a shipyard, it would instead skip it, do enlist officer, and then for its second action, enlist writer. Do you see? Cool. All right. There's an extra one here because sometimes there are some laws that give bonus actions, so look out for that. But there aren't any in play right now. So as it goes, buy shipyard, enlist officer. And that's it. It's as simple as that. Crown plays the rest of the rules exactly by the rest of the game. So buys a shipyard, it costs £2. So they spend their £2, they grab a shipyard, they happen to pull T, which is the Thistleworth. So we'll find the Thistleworth. There we go, the Thistleworth. These are 2-sided because this is the fatigued side. If a ship kind of suffers a battering at sea, the blue side is the fully healthy ship, if you like. Right, now this is not fitted. It's not going to go out into an ocean. Okay, this is sitting here on the shipyard. If we want to fit the ship, The manager of shipping has to do that, and it's going to cost £3 to fit a ship. That means you're going to make it seaworthy, you're going to fit it out with a crew, and you're going to send it to one of those 3 seas. At the moment, it's sitting at port in a shipyard owned by the Crown. Right? Cool. The second action was enlist officer. So here we just take a family member, and officers become officers in the army. They can go and fight for one of these 3 armies. At the moment, when they're first enlisted, they're back here in the barracks under the control of military affairs. When we get to military affairs, they'll decide which army that officer will join. Now you can see how this turns into a bit of a negotiation game, because imagine in a multiplayer game, if you're placing an officer here, you might want to be negotiating with whoever's military affairs to say, look, I'm going to put an officer, can you make sure you put them in the army I want, army of Madras or whatever. Now as it goes, the Crown's military affairs, so she doesn't care. She's placing an officer, she'll get to place it where she likes, unless we bribe her otherwise. But that's the kind of things going on here. So you might say, I'm putting my officer here. Can you make sure you put it in the army of Madras? And then the military affairs officers want, well, throw me a quid, right? And then I will. Or give me one of your little promised cards here, So that's what those are about. Not in solo, obviously. But there are opportunities in solo to negotiate with the Crown. On the Crown board, there's actually a little menu of trades that you can perform at any time. Not quite any time. There's the thing it says here, but it says any time between the start of the firm phase and the end of the revenue phase, you may give or take promise cubes in exchange for things like shipyards, workshops, luxuries, or even money. Okay, and during each individual phase, the Crown's going to offer up bespoke trades. So in family phase, for example, there's an opportunity to give us some cubes and take some money. But these always active trades, I say there's a particular window in which you can use them. So start of the firm phase and the end of the revenue phase. Okay, so at the moment we can't do any generic favours, and the Crown's not offering up any favours. They're tight-lipped right now, so we're on our own. There was an opportunity to do some trading in the London season just prior, but obviously in the first turn of the game we're skipping London season. But next time around there are some more negotiations we can do, and these are here in the Crown handbook. Right. So for now we're on our own. We've got our opportunity marker, and we're going to choose which action we wish to perform. I think I'm going to enlist a writer. So let's do that. We're going to enlist a writer. We take one of our family members and we can place them in one of these 3 presidencies, whichever one we choose. I think we're going to go to Bengal. We've got kind of a monopoly here. I'm going to put a writer over here in the Presidency of Bengal, where we're potentially doing a little bit more trading. Let's see what happens. That's it. That's my action for the family phase. Right, it's that simple. Firms, if deregulation. Remember, we don't have deregulation in this scenario. That's when you can form your own private firm. So we're not doing that. Hiring. Are there any vacant offices in this box? Okay. Are there any retirees that have come in or new offices that are opened? No, we're only at the beginning of the game, so we're going to skip hiring. So do be mindful. There is an opportunity here to do some. It says once new company share step is complete. We haven't talked about that yet, but that's not happening. New company shares is if anyone decided to buy shares, seek share as their action. That's not happened. But there is an opportunity here, once that step's complete, to do a little trade with the Crown. So now that we've finished our actions, she's like, okay, let's talk. You can give £1 from your treasury to the Crown if the Crown has a majority of company shares, which she does, to kind of buy some promise cubes back. So that's possibly something I could do. I've got 6. I could say, well, I don't need money right now. Let's give the Crown £2, buy one back. Yeah, actually what I might do, I've got 5, how much have I got? 5, 6, 7, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I'm going to get 1 from the Neptune. That will take me up to 10. I'm looking a little bit ahead. Yeah, why don't I spend 2? Why don't I just buy a couple of promises and, spend, give to the Crown, right? I'm doing a little exchange. So give £1 from your family treasury to the Crown. So we've given, she was on 10, she's now on 12. She's like, all right, that sounds good. Yeah, give me some money. If the Crown has a majority of shares, she's happy to do that. The other thing we could do, she's currently Lion. So she's saying, all right, if you want, we can exchange shares. Shares are tradable. So we could take a share from the Crown at cost of 4 promise cubes. So let's do that. Let's give her 4 promise cubes. So effectively what we've done, we'll give her family member back. She said, right, you give me some money and I'll give you a share. I mean, if we want to put things back to neutral, I could pay £2 more. So we've effectively neutralised things. We're back to 6 cubes each. With this little series of exchanges, I've effectively given her £4 and she's given me a share. Right, that's how she feels about the shares right now and the value of shares right now. That's in the hiring phase. This is the only time you can trade these family pieces. Right, so many things are up for trade in this game, but you can't exchange family members. You can't trade office holders. You can't trade officers or writers. Okay, you can't trade these pieces. The only time they're tradable is when they're sitting here in a court of directors, and what it really represents at this point is not a person per se, but a person holding a share in the company. Right? A seat in the court of directors is the only time, so this is the exception, you can trade family pieces with other players. This applies to the multiplayer game and the solo game, right? Remember, solo game uses all the same rules as multiplayer games. So whenever I say stuff here, it's not necessarily solo specific. Okay, this is how the game works, right? So these are tradable. Family pieces anywhere else at any time are not tradable. Okay, but as it goes, we've done a little bit of exchange. We've paid £4 and effectively bought ourselves a share, or exchanged a share with the Crown. Right, hiring is complete. Nothing happened. The vacant offices was empty, but there was, like I say, an opportunity to exchange shares right there. So let's do it. Right, now we're moving to the next phase of the game, chairman. Crown's chairman. So again, we go to the Crown handbook. So, I mean, I'm going slowly trying to explain everything, but in a multiplayer game, this is going to be downtime for you a little bit because other people are doing stuff, but because it's highly cooperative, there's a lot of negotiation. Even when you're not chairman, when you're not one of these office holders, you're still involved in the game because you're conducting negotiations and saying, no, do this, do that, and I'll give you this and I'll give you that. Same in the solo game, all right? So in the solo game, there's a section for if you're chairman, the Crown is going to be asking things of you, potentially. If the Crown is chairman, then there's a different set of negotiations to be had. All right. Now, step 1 for the Crown being chairman. First thing you do, before the Crown acts, flip a new AI card and set the climate on the Crown family board. So we're going to flip an AI card, and this is the point at which climate changes. We did one for the start of the game just during setup, but every turn now, when we hit chairman phase, we're going to flip a new AI card. Okay, so again, we're setting the climate, so we're just looking at the box in the middle. It says, what are company expectations right now? Company expectations is a feature of the company standing track. Expectations are £4, £6, £8, £10, £12, £14, £16. Okay, depending on what the company standing is. So as the company standing goes up, the expectations of the company go up. As the company standing falls, the expectations go down. This is basically expectations on what the company balance is going to be. Remember, at the start of the game, our balance is 5. Expectations are £10. So the expectations is by the time we've paid all our expenses, we're back around here in the revenue phase. Expectations are that we'll be at least at £10. All right, so we've made some trade, we've made some money, we've paid our expenses, and we're at least £10 or more. So this AI card is saying, what are company expectations right now? Okay, and as it goes, company expectations are £10 or more, then the company, the Crown feels bullish. All right, so the climate and the mood changes to bull. So we move this up here. So Crown's taken a look at the board and gone, do you know what? I'm feeling a little bit more confident about the company for this turn. So as chairman, she's feeling bullish. The chairman's role, remember, irrespective of solo or multiplayer, the chairman's role is to spend this company balance. They've got to take this balance down to zero. They're going to spend all their money. So every single pound in the company balance will be invested into one of these 5 treasuries: Director of Trade, Manager of Shipping, or one of the 3 presidencies. They've got to decide how to distribute this £5 amongst those 5 treasuries. Okay, that's the chairman's job. Now they may say, do you know what, £5 isn't enough. But what they can do is they can take some debt. There's a company debt track here. At the start of the game, it's on 0. We don't have any debt. But they can choose to take as much debt as they want and push this tracker up. For every 1 debt they take, they add £5 to the company balance. Now, the rules tell us that the chairman can take up to 3 debts, that's £15, up to 3 debt unilaterally. They don't need to discuss that or agree it with the rest of the company. But if they want to take more than 3, they can only do so with the consent of the majority of the court of directors. They can offer one of their own votes themselves. So at the moment, I've got 3 votes, they've got 3 votes. So we've done enough to stop them taking too much debt without our agreement. Make sense? Okay. Again, another cooperative element of the game. This is the chairman in a multiplayer game. There might be 3 or 4 players with shares in the court of directors all going, I don't know, that's too much debt. Oh yeah, okay, let's go for it. And there's chats going on. But as it goes, they can take up to 3 without consulting the court of directors. Let's see what the Crown does. So we go to the Crown handbook, let's say. So step 1, seek debt. Advance the debt marker for each, and their mood is currently bull, for each presidency with an open home port. An open home port is one that's not closed. Remember, there's 3 home ports in India. 1, 2, 3, 3 open ports. They're going to try and seek 3 debt. Now, if I want to, I could reduce that. Requesting an additional company debt advancement costs me a cube. Asking them to take 1 less company debt advancement costs me 2 promised cubes. So they want to take 3. If I say no, that's too much, only take 2, that's going to cost me 2 promised cubes. I'm going to say no. Let's say, look, Chairman, we're going to pay 2 cubes, request 1 less company debt. Now, if the company was bearish or peacock on their status, it would only cost me 1 cube. At the moment, if they're bullish, right? So if a bull, stag, or lion, it's going to cost me 2 cubes to reduce that debt request from 3 down to 2. I can do these promises as many times as I want. So if I wanted to take it down from 3 to 1, I'd have to do this promise twice. I'd have to pay 4 cubes, so 2 to take it down from 3 to 2, and then 2 more to take it down from 3 to 1, or 2 to 1. Right, so I'd have to do that, and now they'd only take 1 debt. And if I wanted them to take it down to no debt at all, that would be another 2 cubes, and I'd be down to no promises. They've got 12. All right, I've kind of blown all my favours with the Crown already. Twisting their arm and saying, no, don't take any debt. Okay. As it goes, let's let them take all 3. Let's let them take all 3 debt. So they're going to take 3 debt, which is £15, which puts them up to 20. A massive 20 in the company budget. No, that's too much. I'm gonna pay 2. Let's make them only take 2. And this is the thing, right? This is exactly the same kind of negotiations that are going on in the multiplayer game. The Crown's doing what she thinks is the best for the company, or the worst for the company, depending on her climate, on her mood. We've got to try and rein her in as much as we can, and how much leverage you have is given by the number of cubes we have. Okay. Right, so there we are. Their company balance is sitting at 15. She's taken a debt. Next thing you do in the multiplayer game is you allocate that £15 out across those offices. So how is the Crown going to allocate that money? So she's going to decide where the money's going to go, but we can persuade her otherwise if we wish. So she's going to give £4 to each presidency with an open port. So £4, every presidency has an open port right now, so she's going to do that. Okay, let's let that happen. So £4 to Bombay, £4 to Madras, 4 to Bengal. Okay, done. All right. Then she's going to give £5 to the Director of Trade. She's going to stick, she's only got 3 left, so remember, give as much as possible to any step that cannot be performed in full. So she's going to give the rest to Director of Trade, right? So I'm going to spend a promise cube at this point and say, no, don't do that. At any point before each step, request that £3 or less, so I could say only 2 or 1, be allocated to a specific office. So I'm going to spend a promise cube and say, right, put the remaining 3 in shipping. Okay. Right, job done. That's Chairman's role done. All the money's spent. Chairman's complete. We move on to Director of Trade. The Director of Trade has 2 jobs. First, they've got their own balance. They can use that money to take a special envoy action. They can send a special envoy to India to open an order. Alternately, they can open trade with China. We'll talk about it if and when we get to it. Secondly, they can then make up to 2 transfers. With their transfers, they can move writers, or they can move ships, or mix and match, right? But 2 maximum. So, Crown's chairman, does she take the special envoy action? And if she does, which of these orders does she want to open? You can open any closed order in a region not controlled by the company. At the moment, we don't control any region. Each of the 8 regions has a dome with or without towers. Once we invade, create a governorship, replace the dome with a governorship, we control the region. We can't use a special envoy there anymore. Let's have a look at the Crown handbook. So Crown is, if we're Director of Trade, no, if Crown is Director of Trade, her mood is bull. The Crown will take this action. She always will. Okay. And she's going to spend £3. They've got £3. So she's going to spend £3 and roll the dice. All right, this is the first time we've seen this part of the game, but we do have an opportunity to influence this if we wish. We could force the Crown to spend less money or more money, okay, using our promise cubes. So we want to say, actually, I want you to spend more money than that. For every £1 they spend, they get a die. Dice are used to make these success checks. This is central to the game of John Company. Whenever we want to check if something is successful or not, we do a success check rolling dice. We'll come to that when we do it. But typically, the number of dice you roll is equal to the number of pounds you spend. So the Director of Trade chooses to spend £3. They happen to have £3. They're going to roll 3 dice. We might say, no, spend more, spend less. All right. So if we wanted to, we could spend 2 cubes. It says 2 cubes when they're bullish or stag. Only 1 cube when they're lion, bear, or peacock, to spend less, right? But I'm happy with £3 there. Let's let her do her thing. If we wanted to, she's going to target one of these closed orders. If we wanted to open trade with China, we could force her to do that. We're not going to. We're short on promise cubes right now. I'd rather save them for presidential operations. We will do it on a later turn, so never fear, we'll come to trade with China at some point. In John Company, rolling dice is called a success check. A success is a roll of 1 or 2. A failure is a roll of 3 or 4. A catastrophic failure is a roll of 5 or 6. Typically, a 1 or 2 is success, good stuff happens. 3 or 4 is a failure, nothing happens. Sometimes you get to have another go if you've got more money to spend. 5 or 6, catastrophic failure, you fail. You don't get to have another go, And typically, the office holder who was trying to do their thing, in this case, the Director of Trade, gets booted out of their position. They don't get retired. The family piece goes back to their supply, right? So it doesn't get a chance to retire. This is terrible, all right? So the more dice you roll, the better. And down here on the player board is a chance of success, which is a nice little player aid for you. So with 3 dice, the Director of Trade spent £3. Let's roll 3d6. They've got a 70% chance of success. If I wanted to spend some promise cubes and make them roll less, say only 2, it would be 56% chance of success. So we're happy with this, 70% chance of success. So let's roll and we'll see what happens. We're looking for a 1 or a 2. We got it. Ooh, 2 6s and a 1. Always take the lowest roll, so ignore those. The roll is a 1, that's a success. Remember, 1 or 2 is a success. All right, so the Crown has successfully completed a special envoy. Now they choose to open an order. With that success, which of these 7 closed orders do they want to open? If we want to, we can spend a cube, promise cube, and target a specific order, make them open which one we want them to. Let's see which one she goes for. She's going to go for the northernmost closed order in the first priority region given by the AI card. So we got a tiebreaker. We're going to look at the AI card. Down at the bottom of the current AI card is a list of regions going from left to right, the 8 region icons. The first one, if it's got a closed order in it, that's the one she's going to go for. That's the Punjab. Punjab is up here. Yes, it's got a closed order. I'm happy with that. So we're going to open this closed order. That's it. Job done. Director of Trade has done a good job. Opened up this little trade route up to the Punjab. This goes back in the supply. Special envoy can be taken multiple times. So remember, Crown Chairman was trying to put more money into the Director of Trade. So they would have had another £3 in here, but I forced them to push it into shipping instead. So they would potentially do it again, try and open another order. But that's the way it is. They've run out of money, nothing more to be done. All right, so that's the special envoy. Next, remember I said there was 2 things Director of Trade does. So they do special envoys, then up to 2 transfers of writers and ships. So they're going to move potentially some ships and writers around. All right, let's have a look at the Crown Handbook, see what she does. So she's bullish. Up to 2 transfers. We can we stop? Yes, we can. We can prevent a transfer. Counts as one of the 2 available. So if she of her 2 transfers, if we want to stop one of them, we can spend a cube. If we want to force her to make a particular transfer, then it's 2 promise cubes. So we may do that. Let's have a look and see what she's going to choose to do. It says a crown writer. Crown writer, there's 2 of them. From presidency with the shortest trade route to presidency with the longest trade route. A trade route, remember we're always trading through the home port. So Madras is from the South Seas. Ships are going to sail into this port and they're going to travel down these dotted lines to open orders. There aren't any open orders connected to this home port. So there's only 1 open order here. So that's a trade route length of 1. Over in Bombay, here's the home port. There's lots of open orders now because we've cleared this one in the Punjab. We've actually, from here we could go 1, 2, 3. We can go up here, 4, 5. We can go along this line here, 6. And that's the end of it. There's 6 here. And then over in the east, in Bengal, there's 1, 2, 3, 4. We can get to 4 before we hit closed orders. So shortest trade route, longest trade route. So they want to transfer a crown writer from the Madras presidency to the Bombay presidency. That's their first transfer. They can do that because there's a crown writer there. Done. If there wasn't a crown writer here, they would just skip that step and move to the second one, which is a ship from the presidency with the shortest trade route to the presidency with the longest route. So they want to transfer now a ship from here to here. Do we want them to do that? Yes, we do. Let's let that happen. Okay, so there they go. They've made their 2 transfers. Okay, if they hadn't hit 2, there's a third option. Okay, there we go. If they reach the bottom of the list, then they don't make any more transfers. That's all they wanted to do. I'm happy with that. Yeah, this works in favour of the company. So at the moment, the Crown's playing nice. All right, and that's fair. Crown's playing nice. She's working in favour of the company. She's bullish for the company. She wants the company to succeed. She's putting ships into the place where it can trade best. When we come to the presidential actions and trading, the number of orders you can trade in is limited by the number of ships you have. Okay, so the more ships, the more trading you can do. All right, that's it then. Director of Trade's done. Move to shipping. Manager of shipping. Manager of shipping's responsibility is to buy and fit ships. Crown is manager of shipping. Okay, this is kind of worked in a way that I can show you how the Crown works. But remember, although the Crown's the office holder, we are using our promise cubes, the power of our trades here. So we could, if we wanted to get some more promise cubes back, we could be bribing her with some money and so on. Okay, or some enterprises and what have you, whatever's on this card here. So in the solo game, you've still got decisions to make every step of the game. All right, manager of shipping. If the Crown is manager of shipping, so she's going to fit ships. Remember at the beginning of the game, I had one shipyard. She had two. She's bought a new one. These were the 3 starting ships that have been fitted up in those seas. She bought a shipyard. This Thistleworth is unfitted. So to put that out in a sea, we're going to have to fit it. All right, fit the ship and set sail. It costs £3 to fit a ship. So let's see, what does she do? It says, the Crown, if the Crown is Minister of Shipping, she will try to fit as many of their ships as possible. Then any player ships, if I'd bought a shipyard and I had an unfitted ship here, she'd try and fit mine as well. We can bribe her to fit a specific ship if we want. And it's going to cost £3 for every ship fitted. So she's going to fit that Thistleworth. It costs £3. We take the £3 from the manager of shipping. Remember, chairman allocated these funds out to do these jobs. So £3 is spent. The Thistleworth is going to be fitted. Okay. Now we've got to decide where she's going to fit it. It says here, placing ships. The Crown will place all the ships they fitted, bought and leased this turn. Okay. In the Presidency sea zone with the longest open trade route, with priority going to a Crown President. So if there were 2 presidencies with trade routes of the same length, she'd tie-break by choosing the one that's her presidency. But it's the sea zone with the longest open trade route, which we already established was Bombay. So she's fitting this Thistleworth in Bombay. Beautiful. We can influence this again, a promise cube, make her fit a ship in a sea zone of our choice. Now, manager shipping still got £3 left. There's no more unfitted ships here for her to fit, but there's a couple of more options. She can, from the supply, buy company ships. So these are ships that belong to the company. They're not owned by one of our players. They don't have one of these shipyards. They're owned by the company. They persist with the company and they're forever with the company. But company ships are expensive, and you can only buy them if there's no ships on shipyards. Okay, they cost £5. She's only got 3. But there's another option, right? If you haven't got enough money for one of these permanent company ships, on the flip side is something called an extra ship. These are like leased ships. They're temporary. They only stick around for this turn, but they're a lot cheaper. They only cost £2. Okay, so it says here, leasing extra ships. The Crown will spend all money left in shipping on extra ships. Okay, I can stop her doing that if I wish and leave £2 unspent. Okay, with a promise cube. But we're happy with this to happen. So she's going to buy another extra ship. It's going to cost £2. Remember, this is all company money. It's the manager of shipping's office. It's their treasury spending this. So she's going to put an extra ship. Remember, she places them in the presidency with the longest open trade route. So that's going in Bombay as well. Now I might say, Crown, do you know what? I don't like that. That's no good. Why don't we put that extra ship over in the east? So let's put it in Bengal instead. Okay. Remember, it's going to cost me a promise cube. Remember, that's the barter she's offering up. If you want me to fit into a different sea zone, give me a cube. So let's give her a cube and ask her to put this in the Presidency of Bengal instead, the Eastern Sea. Spread them out a little bit, but I'm starting to get a little bit low on leverage now. Now, the rules tell us that the manager of shipping can leave some money unspent, similarly for director of trade, but the manager of shipping can only leave at most £2 unspent. So they have to keep spending. You can't pile money in here and have it stack up. It has to be spent. As it goes, they've only got £1 left. You can't afford anything with £1. So let's move on to military affairs. Military affairs has two jobs. First, they can make up to 2 transfers. They can transfer any pieces from one army to another twice. They can do 2 transfers. Next, once they've done their 2 transfers, they decide where to deploy new officers, which army. So, once more, Crown is military affairs. Let's see what she chooses to do. One thing to note when moving pieces around, and this could influence her decision, if there's more total pieces than the current commander, right? So that's not more, because the commander counts as 1. If there's more total pieces belonging to one player than the current commander, then once we've completed transfers and assigning officers in training, then the current commander kicks out and a new commander is assigned to the majority. All right, so be aware of that. This is all part of the process of assigning officers in training and doing transfers. It can change who the commander is. Okay, so this guy will get demoted, this one would get promoted. All right. But let's see what the Crown does. Okay, if we're military affairs, nope. Incidentally, if we're military affairs and we create a situation where the Crown gets promoted to commander, then it earns us a promise cube back. It's like we've done the Crown a favour. So there's lots of little things like this. You'll see them throughout the book. There's ways to win favour back, like fitting a crown ship, for example, will win you if you're the manager of shipping. Okay, or placing a ship in a Crown presidency, then that will win you favour with the Crown and you'll get a promise cube back. So holding offices is an opportunity to win favour with the Crown by doing stuff that benefits her. All right. But at the moment, Crown's military affairs, it says the Crown will attempt to perform 2 officer transfers. That should say army transfers. So that's one for the errata list, I guess. We'll attempt to perform 2 army transfers. You can influence these transfers using promise cubes, as usual. Okay. So if I want regiments to go from here to here or there to there, I can throw promise cubes. But she will transfer according to this table. Okay, she'll transfer regiments first, then Crown officers, then player officers, using the following priority. All right, so that's a Crown officer, that's a player officer. Okay, Crown's green, I'm pink, and these are regiments. She wants to transfer from a player presidency's army. We're the President of Bombay and the President of Bengal. So she wants to transfer either from Bombay or Bengal to a Crown's presidency's army. So the Crown presidency is Madras. She wants to transfer from here or here to here. Okay, from here or here to here. So her 2 transfers will be like this. She wants to put everyone in Madras. Do I want her to do that? And this is where you start ruining that decision to spend 4 of my promise cubes on a transfer of shares, because I've started to lose leverage now. But, all right, Crown, this is what you want to do. You want to stick everything in the army of Madras. Fair enough. Fair enough. That's not such a bad thing as it goes. There's money there to be spent. We can't trade there. So, yeah, I'm happy with that. Next, she wants to assign officers. So she's going to... There's only 1 officer to be assigned, and she wants to stick it in a Crown... She's bullish, remember. She wants to stick it in a Crown presidency first. The only Crown presidency is Madras, so she wants to stick that officer in Madras as well. If there were more than 2 Crown presidencies, then you go down this priority list. Of those, she would pick the presidency with the most ships. If they had equal number of ships, she'd go to the next one, a presidency where the Crown is governor, and so on and so on. All right, so these are like tiebreakers. Okay, if there were if there was another officer to be assigned, let's say I put an officer in here, then the first one goes to a Crown Presidency. The second one would also go to, you start at the top of the list again, a Crown Presidency. Okay, so you go down this list for every officer that needs to be assigned, just using each step as a tiebreaker when trying to decide between armies. Okay, that's the way that one works. All right, so we're happy with that. That's military affairs done. So she's done her 2 transfers. She's assigned officers. That's it. Next step, Presidency of Bombay. Now this time the Crown is not president, so I'm the president of Bombay. So this is me doing my thing. Now the first thing a president decides is, a presidency consists of presidency actions. We can trade with this money, but the presidency also has an army, the Army of Bombay, and the Army of Bombay has a commander. The commander can make decisions about invading. So the first thing the president must decide is, do they want the commander to go first and invade, or do they want to go first and trade and then have the commander invade? So as president and commander of the Army of Bombay, I don't have any regiments or officers there, so Army of Bombay commander's doing nothing, so we're not invading. We could potentially spend the money in the president's treasury to hire some local alliances. This is what these tokens are about. So we could hire the Sikhs or the Rajput prince. There's a cost. This one would cost £3, this one would cost £5, and this gives, the Sikhs bring a strength 2 army, so it's equivalent of 2 regiments or 2 officers, and the Rajput prince 3, an army strength of 3. So we could do that. We've got, how much money have we got in the president's coffers? We've got 2, 4, 6, £7. So we could potentially hire, say, the Sikhs for £3, leaving 4 in the treasury, and use that army strength of 2 to invade Bombay. Now when you invade, if we had an army strength of 2, we have to do a success check. Is our invasion successful or not? Remember what I told you before. Normally it's the number of pounds you spend is the number of dice you get. When you're invading with an army, the strength of your army is the number of dice you get. So a strength 2 army would bring 2 dice. Remember, on our family board, it tells us chance of success with 2d6 is 56%. So the odds are with us, but they ain't great. And it actually gets a little bit worse because this region has a strength 1 tower in it. The Punjab has a strength 0 tower. This has a strength 1 tower. For every tower strength in the region you're invading, you remove 1 die. So actually we'd only get to roll 1d6. So we got a 1 in 3 chance of rolling a success, right? A 1 or a 2 on a d6. I don't like those odds. So we're not invading. We're not recruiting local alliance. Commander of Bombay decides to do nothing. We could up our odds. We've got £7 in the coffers. We couldn't afford both of these, but this one would give me a strength 3 army, so that would be 2 dice, and that's 56%. I still don't like the odds. Then still not that great. Okay. Besides, if I spend all the money in invading from the president's coffers, then I haven't got any money left to trade, because that's what we're going to do next. We're going to choose to trade. We've got 3 ships, which means we can trade along 3 open orders. Okay, let's have a look and see where we're going to go. So that's the maximum number of orders. Remember, we have to go in through here, so we'd have 1 ship trading here, and then we've got 2 more ships, so we could go along these lines. We can't go that way, that's closed. We could go this way, that's £3 this way, and then another 6. So if we traded successfully, we would get 4 plus 3, 7, £13. Or we could go this way. We could go 4, 3, 3, that would only be £10. Or we could go 4, 3, 7, that would be £14. Right, I like this way best. That's the most profitable route. So we express our intentions. Our intentions are to trade here, along this trade route into this region. We have to declare the number of regions we're trading in. We're trading in Bombay and the Punjab, right? Along this little trade route here. That's 3 ships, 3 open orders, all linked to the home port across 2 regions. For every extra region beyond the home port that we want to trade is a 1 die penalty on our success check. Okay, so next step is we decide how much money we want to spend. So let's say I choose to spend £5. If I choose to spend £5, that's 5 dice on our success check. Was my trade successful or not? I've traded an extra region, so I get a 1 die penalty. I get to roll 4 dice. Okay, so let's do that. We'll spend £5 and we'll roll 4 dice. Make sense? The tower strength is irrelevant now because we're not invading, we're just trading. Okay, so let's roll our 4 dice. If we succeed, remember, I'll look at our board. Chance of success of 4 dice is 80%. I could spend another £1 and make it 87%. Yeah, I could spend all my money and make it 91%, but I'm going to go with 80% chance of success. I'm happy with those odds. If I'm successful, remember we take the lowest die from these 4, then our trade is successful. If I fail, then I fail. Okay, let's roll. Right, take the lowest die. The lowest die is a 2. A 1 or a 2 is a success. We have successfully traded. Beautiful. Okay, so now we can fill 3 orders, those 3 orders. And we fill those orders with the writers in our presidency. There's 2 writers. If we'd only traded 1 order, we'd have to choose which writer would go and fill that order. But as it is, we filled 3. We've only got 2 writers, so we head off to the supply. On the back of these closed orders is a filled. This is a kind of like a temporary filled order, like a temporary writer. So now we've got the 3 writers to fill those 3 orders, and we fill them. Remember, it's 3 because we've got 3 ships. We fill them with the writers. We start with real writers and then only use these filled ones once we run out. So I'm going to stick mine here. That's £4. The crown writer here, that's another 3. That's £7, and then an extra writer here for £7. That's 14 total. £14 goes to the company. So the company balance goes up to 14. We've helped the company big time with our trading. Do you see how £14, that's almost as much as 3 debt. Now we do get a little payoff from this. For every order filled, the president gets £1 for their personal treasury. It's like we've creamed off a little bit of money from those trades. Okay, so 3 orders filled is £3 for my personal treasury. Wonderful. In addition, every writer that filled an order gets £1 for their family. So that writer also takes their little cut as well. So we had 1 writer, the crown had 1 writer, the extra writer, that's nothing, that's off nowhere. Okay, so £1 for us, £1 for the crown. And this is why trading is lucrative for presidents and lucrative for writers, particularly the presidents here. Okay, so we've made £4 out of this for our personal Benyon family treasury. In addition, we've won a little bit of favour with the crown. It says if you are president and you place X crown writers when filling orders, you get X promise cubes back. And this always applies even if I had no choice. I had no choice, but I've won a little bit of favour with the crown. Okay, I placed one of their writers, they got some money, so I get a promise cube back. Okay, so yeah, the crown's grateful for our work and says thank you very much, I owe you one. Now then, that's it. That's crown. That's the Presidency of Bombay complete. Now we're moving to the Presidency of Madras, where the crown is president. It says if the crown is president, crown presidents make governors act first, then commanders, and then they attempt to trade. Now remember, we don't have any governors yet because we've not conquered any regions. We do have the commander, obviously. So commander's going to go first. If we want to, we can switch that order of operations around. It's going to cost us a promise cube. We don't want to. We're happy with that. So we're going to have the army of Madras go next, the commander of Madras. Commander of Madras happens to be the crown as well. So if crown is commander, first thing we have to decide is, will they purchase any of these local alliances? Will they spend any of the president's money? Incidentally, if you want to spend the president's money on a local alliance, you need the president's consent. So you can't, I mean, in this case, I was the president of Bombay and the commander of Bombay. But if we look at Bengal, I'm the president, they're the commander. If the crown tries to spend my president's money on local alliances, I have to give my consent. So in this case, If the commander of Madras wants to buy a local alliance, because it's a crown president, they will always give consent. She's bullish. She will not purchase a local alliance. Okay, fair enough. If I want to force her to, I can spend 2 promise cubes. Where will she deploy those armies if she deploys the armies? Remember, we're in Madras. She will take a deploy action, so you deploy any armies in the president's home region with closed orders. So the Presidency of Madras has a home region of Madras and it has closed orders. She's looking to deploy in Madras. We then have to choose the size of the army. Now remember what I told you, every strength of army is 1 die. Okay, so she's got a 1, 2, 3, 4 strength army right now. Okay, so at most she can have 4 dice. There's a tower strength 1 here, so that's only 3 dice. And it says the Crown Commander will only deploy in a non-company controlled region, which is an invasion, if she can roll a minimum of 6 dice. She can only roll 3. So at the moment, she's saying, no, I'm not doing it. My army's not strong enough, because she's bullish. If she were bearish or peacock, then she's been a little bit more gung-ho. But right now, she's all up for just stability, company, trading, right? Not so big on invasions. So to have her invade, I've got a couple of options. I could have said, right, let's spend 2 promise cubes and have her recruit a local alliance, say the Nizam for 2. That would give her 6 strength army, -1 for the tile. That's 5 dice. It's still not enough. Then I could spend my final promise cube to reduce that 6 down to 5. She's got the 5, and then she would invade. But that would cost me my 3 remaining promise cubes. Okay, so you see how important promise cubes are when you're negotiating with the crown. And then I'm all out of promise cubes. I've got no sway over her anymore. I have to start doing some stuff to get those back. So I could do it. I could persuade her. She is up for it. Now let's just take another look at Madras. If they don't invade, next thing would be spending this money to trade. They've got no ships. Remember, you can only trade for as many orders as you have ships. They can't trade because they have no ships. So invasions is probably the right decision. But she's bullish. She's not up for it. She wants me to persuade her. So, Commander, let's spend £3 on the Nizam. We're forcing her to buy this local alliance. It's going to cost me 2 promise cubes. That's going to give her 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, -1, 5 dice. She's still not buying it. We have to spend another promise cube to say, okay, take that 6 down to 5. Now she's buying it. Okay, so the army of Madras is committed to this deployment. We exhaust all of these pieces. Okay, we've exhausted a 5 strength army. We roll 5 dice, and we're looking for a success. Okay, it's a strength 6 army, -1 because of the tower strength. We're looking for a 1 or a 2. Would you believe it? We failed. We got 3, 3, 4, 5, 5. Irrespective of success or failure, we now got to check for casualties. It doesn't apply to regiments, but every officer that was exhausted gets to roll a d6. On a 6, that officer is killed in battle. It's a 5. They survived. The deployment wasn't a catastrophic failure. We got a 3. It was our lowest die. So the commander's okay. But unfortunately, there's no result. There's no result from that invasion. If we were successful, we'd have opened all the orders. Crown would have got a trophy. We'd have removed this tower. We'd have created a governorship here. We'd have drawn loot. It would have been 5 loot. That's what this £5 is about. 5 loot plus 4 for every tower defeated. So it would have been 9 loot that would have been divided between the regiments and the commander and the officer. We'll come to it when it happens successfully. But there you go. We've got 1 failed deployment. And yeah, that's it. That's the commander done their thing. President can't trade because there's no ships, so we're moving to the Presidency of Bengal. All right, Bengal, what am I going to do? I've got 2 ships. I've got 2 writers, I've got lots of orders. Yep, I'm going to trade. We could ask the army of Bengal if they want to invade. They don't have any strength army, so they can't be invading. We know she's bullish. She's not going to be looking to recruit any local alliances. So, the Crown's pretty annoyed with me right now because I've got no promise cubes. All out of leverage. But there you go. Let's trade. So how much do I want to spend? I want to make sure of this, I think. I'm going to spend 5. I've only got 2 ships, so I'm not going any extra regions. It's these 2 orders here. So £5 is 5 dice. Let's see if we successfully trade in Bengal. And whoa, we do. We got our 1. So that's our lowest. We've succeeded. 2 ships is 2 orders filled. We use our writers. So we got a £6 and a £5 order. So that's £11 for the company. So we're up to from 14 to 25. £11 for the company. I'm the president. We fill 2 orders. I get £2. An extra 1 for my writer. That's £3 for me. £1 for the Crown as a bonus for using their writer. I won some favour with the Crown. I get a cube back for using one of their writers. That's presidential operations concluded. Right, that's it. All the officers have acted, and now we're into the tail end of the turn. Trade with China if applicable. Remember, Director of Trade could have opened trade with China. That hasn't happened yet, so we'll skip that phase. Now we move to bonuses. Players are taking £1 for every fitted ship, £1 for every workshop. So I've got 1. Crown's got 3. Phase complete. Nice and easy. Next phase is revenue. In the revenue and expenses phase, company's going to pay expenses and then check their expectations against company standing. And then the chairman, if they wish, can pay dividends from the company balance. Dividends will be going to the shareholders, of which there are 6 currently, right? 3 of us and 3 of them. Chairman counts as a shareholder. Okay, so what's our expenses? Expenses are 1 for every level of debt. Our level of debt is 2. 1 for every officer and regiment in our armies. We've currently got 1, 2, 3 regiments, 1 officer, so that's 4. That takes us up to 6 expenses, plus 1 for every ship in each of the 3 sea zones. There's 5. So 6 plus 5, 11. Our total expenses are 11. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So we lower the company balance by 11. So we go from 25 back down to 14. So that trade up in Bengal paid for our expenses alone. So that's expenses. Now we check expectations. Company standing is here above the £10 expectation level. If the company balance is less than £10, then company standing goes down. It's not, it's at 14, so company standing stays where it is. We're good. The company did well. Whether company standing goes up, though, is determined by the next step, which is pay dividends. If more than £10 is paid out in dividends, then company standing will go up. Incidentally, these shaded areas, forget them when we're not playing with deregulation. Remember, we're playing the 1710 short scenario. When deregulation's in play in those other scenarios, if one of these pawns is in one of these shaded areas, that's when players can vote to deregulate, remove the company monopoly, create private firms. All right, so not in this game. In this game, ignore these shaded lines. They don't mean anything to us. Okay, so we've checked expectations after paying our expenses. Now the chairman gets to make a decision. Do they wish to pay out dividends? Crown is chairman. Let's see what she decides to do. The Crown, if the Crown is chairman, the Crown will try to pay a 1 dividend minimum, then more if able, to leave X pounds in the company balance as indicated. She's bullish. She wants to leave £0 in the company balance. She wants to pay out as much money as possible in dividends. Every 1 dividend is going to cost the number of shares. So there's 6 shares. So to pay out 1 dividend is going to cost £6. Okay, to pay out another dividend is going to cost another £6. It takes the company balance down to 2. She can't afford to pay any more dividends. So she's going to pay out 2 dividends. If I wanted to, I could persuade her to pay less or more. I don't have enough promise cubes at this point, though. It's going to cost me 2 promise cubes to pay out 1 less dividend, which would put £6 back in the company coffers. I mean, I'm going to be starting the next term with only £2. Remember, I started the game with 5, plus a bunch of money here. So I do want her to pay out less, I think. So I could give her £3. Or, in easy mode, it says I can remove a promise card from the game to give me a promise cube back, where the number of promise cubes is determined by turn divided by 2 rounded up. So we're on turn 1. So in turn 1, these are only worth half rounded up. They're worth 1 promise cube each. When we get to turn 3, they'll be worth 2 promise cubes each. So the longer you hold on to these, the more valuable they become. But I could right now turn this in, because we're in easy mode, get a promise cube back. Then I could spend 2 promise cubes to have the crown pay out 1 less dividend. Keep the coffers at 8. So we've gone down 14 to 8. Yes, he's paid out £6 in dividends. If I let her pay out the £12 in dividends, then company standing would go up, of course. But no, I'm happy with this. So she's going to pay out £6 in dividends. So that's £1 to every shareholder. So I get £3 and the crown gets £3. Okay. £3 for me, £3 for the crown. That's it. Now I could, if I wanted to, exchange them in for some big coins. Right, she's got quite a bit more money then. She's got 22, I've got 16. Remember, I did spend some money. Yeah, I spent money on that share. But it's kind of paid itself back a little bit, I suppose, in that dividend. All right, that's the end of the revenue phase. Now move to events in India. Events in India means we roll the big storm die. This is the big storm die. Let's give it a roll. On here, it says how many events in India are going to occur. This is like India doing its own thing. 4 events is one option. There's a side with 1 event. Okay, so it could be from 4 to 1. But on here are also some clouds. These are like storms. Okay, if I rolled this side, it would be 2 events plus a storm in the eastern seas. These 3 clouds is 1 event, but storms in all 3 seas. Okay, 4 events or no storms at all. Okay, there we go. So let's roll it, see what happens. 3 events. Right, 3 events and storms in the south. Storms means every ship in that sea has to make a check. On a success, the ship is fine. On a failure, a 3 or a 4, the ship is fatigued. If a fatigued ship gets fatigued again, then the ship is sunk and it goes back to its shipyard. On a 5 or a 6, on a catastrophic failure, the ship sinks straight away. All right, goes back to its shipyard. Now, as it goes, storms in the south doesn't do anything. We've got no ships there, but we do have to draw 3 events. These are events up here, these circular tiles. All right, let's draw the first event, see what it is. It says peace. Peace occurs on the border where the elephant is currently placed. If there's a connection between these 2 regions where the elephant's standing, the 2 orders that connect these 2 regions are opened if they're closed, and then the towers in those 2 regions are increased in strength. Here's our elephant. The border between Maratha and Delhi is across this, between these 2 orders here. So this order opens, and then we increase the strength of the 2 regions that are joined by the elephant, Maratha and Delhi. So we've got spare tower strengths. Maratha goes up to strength 3, and Delhi goes from strength 1 to strength 2. That's peace. Next, the elephant moves, and it moves. Where does it move to? It moves to the region on the top of the stack, right? And it's asking for the border that has a square shape on it. The region on the top of the stack is this one, okay? Hyderabad. So the elephant's moving, stick its tail in Hyderabad, and its head where the square is. So if we look at Hyderabad, this border has a triangle, this border has a circle, this border has a square. So it's going to go here with its head poking into Bombay. So Hyderabad has got its eye on Bombay. Right, that's our first event. We've got 2 more to go. Remember, storm die. So we've done 3, we've got 2 to go. Flip. Now, there is a little bit of info here because we've got this pocket guide to India. And if we look, it's Hyderabad next. Hyderabad is this one here. It tells us that there's a chance it's going to be a windfall card or a leader +4 card, and the chances the elephant's can move to triangle. So you do get a little bit of a sneaky preview as to what might be coming. So when you're playing out the game and you're thinking about where you might need your defences, if you look at the top of that event stack, you might get a little clue about at least one of the events that might occur. But let's see what it is. It's a windfall. And it says a windfall in Maratha. And you look at the top, the region on top also. Maratha has a windfall for writers here and in adjacent regions. They get a £1 bonus, a little windfall. We don't have any writers in Maratha, but adjacent regions. That's a good call, actually. That's a good one to come up. But we've got a writer here. We've got this is adjacent. Bombay's adjacent. So we do have adjacent writers. Okay, so you can see it is significant where writers get placed. As it goes, it's £2 for me and £2 for him. So a nice little windfall. Happy with that. 1 more event to go. Let's see what it is. And it's turmoil. It says close the northernmost open order in top of the stack is Delhi. All right, so the elephant didn't come into play on windfall or turmoil, but Delhi closed the northernmost open order. This is the northernmost. It's basically which one's towards the top of the board. That guy closes. And that's all 3 of our events completed. We move now to the Parliament phase. Parliament meets. Right, this phase gets a little bit more complicated, but as if it wasn't complicated. We're kind of, this is the last kind of complicated phase, and then we're at the end of the turn, and then we'll be into the next turn. So you've learnt a huge amount of the game so far. But Crown is Prime Minister. The first thing we're going to do is what's called a climate shift, and it's here in the Crown Handbook. Okay? If the Crown is Prime Minister, first perform a climate shift. A climate shift is, so she's bullish right now, but there's a small chance that may shift. She may just shift a little bit to the right here. To do this, we roll 6 dice and we count the numbers of successes and the numbers of failures. Okay. We got 3 successes and 3 failures. Okay. Remember, 1s and 2s are successes, 3s, 4s, 5s and 6s are failures. So we've got 3 and 3. Climate shift is in this little call out. If the number of successes is greater or equal to the company standing, we shift the Crown climate 1 position to the right. Okay, where's company standing? Company standing's here. Now it tells us company standing runs from 0 to 7. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, that's how you do it. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we're currently at 4. If the number of successes is greater or equal, we shift climate to the right. It's not. Number of successes is 3. It's currently at 4. Then it says if the number of successes is greater than company standing. So if we had 5, 6 or 7 successes, we only have 3. Move it to the right. Right? Climate's not shifting. Third, this does this in 4 steps. So the third step, if the number of failures we had 3 failures. If the number of failures is less or equal to company standing is 4. Number of failures is less or equal to company standing, then shift the crown climate to the left if able. We can't shift the climate any further to the left because it's bullish. And then finally, if the number of failures is less than company standing, shift it once more to the left if able. It is less than, but we can't shift it left. So that's climate shift. So there's a small probability, and it is the way this logic is. Just follow it. Step 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. The way that logic is, there is a small chance that her climate may shift at this point. She may just alter the way she's going to behave during the Parliament meets phase. Once you've done it a couple of times, it's real simple just to follow. Now, Parliament meets, we draw laws from this law deck. Now we can choose up to 3 of these laws. I'm going to shuffle this back up, but the way it works is you draw a law, you look, if you're Prime Minister, you look at it and go, do I want to put this up to vote? If you say, yes, I do, then you stop there and we put this law up for vote. You may say, well, no, actually, let's look at another one. So you pull another one. Now you've got a choice of 2 and you go, oh, okay, let's choose. Yeah, this one's quite good, I'll stop there. Or you could go, no, all right, we'll stop there, we'll put that one up for vote. Or you could pull again, a 3rd time. And now you've got a choice of 3. You can't pull more than 3. Okay, so once you've pulled out 3 laws, you've got to choose one of them and put it up for vote. But you could stop at any point. And you might say, well, why don't you just always choose, pull 3 and choose the best one? Because some of these laws are called dilemmas. Okay. If you draw a law and go, I'm not sure about that, let's try another one, and then you pull a dilemma, you've missed your chance on this one. A dilemma comes up, you have to put that one up to the vote. Okay, War Against France has come up, we have to vote on it. All right, so there's a little bit of a push your luck there, really, because dilemmas are always kind of bad. All right, something terrible's happened and you've got to vote on it. And if you vote for or against, there's going to be some kind of consequence. Okay, so that's why you don't always push. So if you, as PM, you pull a law that you like the look of, put it up to the vote. Otherwise, you risk pulling a dilemma and missing your chance. Okay, right. What does the Crown do? The Crown, as PM, will look at its AI card. On the AI card, there's these 3 cards at the top, and it says, like this one's got the second one shaded. So if this were top-wise, it would pull 2 laws and have the second one be the one that PM chooses, and it would stop at the second, right? On this AI card, the leftmost card is shaded. What this says is the PM's going to draw 1 law and put that one immediately up for vote. And it is Enclosure Acts. All right, so Enclosure Acts goes up for the vote. And remember, laws are things that change up the rules. The Enclosure Act says, if this passes, this is the law before Parliament, if we vote for it and it passes, each family member on a prize, so these are prizes, these mansion houses, once we've got retirees, pensioners have retired to one of these prizes, each family member on a prize now earns its family £1 during the bonuses phase. Okay, so that's pretty neat. These pensioners have got their little mansion, and the Enclosure Act says that they can earn a little revenue off the land that they own. Okay, so £1 during bonuses. So Crown is PM putting this up for vote. In the regular multiplayer games, the PM can only vote for. They're putting a law up for vote. They can't vote against it. Everybody else, all the other players, can choose to either vote for it or against it, but the PM has to vote for it. In the solo game, the Crown really is independent of Parliament. Okay, so this little phase of the game, Parliament meets, when the Crown has PM, they're not really PM, they're just influencing what Parliament's trying to do. So Parliament is kind of a third party in the solo game, and Parliament is being influenced by the Crown, nothing more. So the Crown can decide, using its own inside agents, people who are infiltrated Parliament on behalf of the Crown, they can vote for or against it. Right? So that's the thing that's different in this game. The Crown can vote for or against, even when they're PM. Okay, so let's see what they do next. Once you put a law before Parliament, the next thing that needs to happen is you have to choose a policy. On the bottom of this law, there's this little banner here that says bonus. We go to the Prime Minister wheel. There's 3 of these green bonus spots. What you have to do as PM then is choose to move this dial clockwise or counterclockwise to the closest green bonus. Now in this case it doesn't matter which is chosen because they're both a bonus on workshops. But which one does she choose? Well, since they're identical, we're just going to have to do a little tiebreaker. And for this we go to the AI card. We will look where the pointy hand is that looks like the Prime Minister's hand, and it's pointing to the back of this card counterclockwise. So we move the pointy hand counterclockwise to this point here. Right, so that's the policy selection. What this means is if this law passes, there'll be a bonus for every workshop icon. Now at the moment, nobody has any workshop icons in their player areas. We've only got shipyards right now. Okay, it's early game. Right, there's one up here actually. There's one in as a prestige card. So there is a way of getting one pretty soon. So policy markers moved. Now we have to put the thing up for votes. Looking back at the law, in the bottom right hand corner there's a -4. What this says is the voting starts with 4 votes against. A -4, 4 votes against. This is the little tracker you can use. It goes up and down from pass at the top to fail at the bottom. So it's starting at -4, 4 against. Crown always votes first. And because Crown has ministers seated on her behalf and she's kind of been paying them off throughout the year, they're going to get a little bit of a bonus too as to which way the law is going to swing. And it depends on the size of the Crown's treasury. So what was the might of the Crown treasury? At the moment it sits at 24. So if she's got 15 or more pounds, she gets an additional 4 votes, 4 or against. We haven't decided which way she's going to go yet. So we look on the back of the Crown Handbook. We're voting for Enclosure Acts. We look at Enclosure Acts. It says if the Crown has the most prizes, most, the word most includes ties as long as the Crown has at least one. Prizes are these things up the board here. Okay, she hasn't got any prizes, so she's not going to be voting for. If the Crown has the most prizes, more than 0, okay, she's going to be voting for, otherwise against. So the Crown's voting against, and she's got her extra 4 votes against. So it's now sitting at -8. Now we look at the voting power of our player areas. Each shipyard brings 1 vote. Anytime you see this icon, this ballot box icon, that's a vote. So she's got 3 votes from her 3 shipyards. That's all she's got. Right, so it's 3 votes further against. So that takes it down to -11. So if I want this to pass, I've got to put 11 votes for. I've only got 1 shipyard. So if I voted for, I could put that back up to 10. Now I'd have to put 10 votes in. Where can I find those 10 votes? You can buy votes. So for every £1 you spend, you can buy a vote. So if I wanted this law to pass, I would have to pay £10, and that would put it back on 0. 0 upwards is a pass. Okay, but I'm not bothered. I'm not bothered about this passing. So the law's going to fail. The Crown's voted heavily against Enclosure Acts. The law fails and is discarded. I could have also voted against. It started at -4, so the Crown put 7 votes against, right? So I could have put 8 votes against. If I voted against, I would get Leader of the Opposition, but I have to vote more against than the Crown did. Does that make sense? If I only voted 1 against, the Crown's voted 7 against, she's still Leader of the Opposition. If you're Leader of the Opposition and the vote and the law doesn't pass, then you take the Prime Minister wheel. So I could do that. If I wanted to be Leader of the Opposition, if I wanted to steal the Prime Minister wheel, I'd have to vote more than 7. I could have put my 1 shipyard and £7 for 8 votes against, and I would have stolen PM. Okay, that's it then. Last step. If a law passes, this bonus would have gone through. When a law fails, this policy marker has to move. It has to move to an adjacent policy. So once more, the Crown's going to decide, and she's going to choose whichever one has the highest net benefit for her. So we can do tax workshops, which has a 0 effect because I have none and she has none, or we can tax luxuries and windows. This has a 0 effect. Neither of us have any windows, neither of us have any luxuries. So which one does she choose? Again, it's up to the AI card, which we already established was counterclockwise. So she's going to move the policy marker to tax workshops. No one's got any. And she retains PMship. And that's it. Parliament meets has finished. We move to the final phase of the turn, which is upkeep and refresh. At this point, we'll be having to pay upkeep on any of our prizes. Okay, so if we help pensioners here, retirees here, we'll be paying upkeep. We don't have any yet. And then we prepare the board for the next turn. So all writers go back to their respective presidencies. So these two guys go back to Bombay. This extra writer goes back to the supply. These go back to Bengal. Extra ships, remember they were only temporary, so that guy disappears, that lease is up. Exhausted armies become refreshed again. So these regiments and that officer, you can stack these if you want, go back up. And then lastly, we move the turn order marker from 1 to 2. We've not reached the end of the game, which would be beyond turn 5 for the 1710. And then we'll begin again on turn 2 at the London season. Now, before I break for the next video, I'm going to actually complete the London season and then we'll stop. And in the next episode, we'll look at turn 2. But I want to do London season to show you how attrition and retirement and grabbing those prestige cards work. So first step of London season is attrition. This is where each of our office holders will potentially retire. We'll roll a d6. So it's the same kind of system as before. We'll roll a d6 for each office holder. On a 1 or a 2, nothing happens. On a 3 or 4, they get fatigued. What that means is on subsequent London seasons, when they do their attrition roll, for every fatigue cube, we'll put one of these cubes, for every fatigue cube on that office holder, you'll add 1 to the die roll. And the die roll of 5 or 6 is a retirement. Okay, so you're kind of hoping for 5s and 6s because that's the way you get retirements, that's the way you get victory points. Okay, not always, sometimes you want to hold on to an office, but it's in the hands of the gods. So let's roll for the President of Bombay. A 2, President of Bengal, a 3, so there's 1 fatigue cube on the President of Bengal. We'll do the same for the Crown. The chairman always has, they call it the stress of being chairman. The chairman always adds 1 to the result, irrespective. So it's like they've got an inherent 1 fatigue on them all the time. So we'll roll for the chairman. It's a 1 plus 1 is a 2. All right, they're keeping it. President of Madras. Doesn't matter what order you do it in. Manager of shipping. A 4. Director of trade. A 5, military affairs, a 4. Okay, so after all that, we've got a couple of fatigue cubes, only 1 retirement, and that's director of trade. So this office goes, we place it here in the vacant offices, face down. We take the director of trade and place it in the pensioners box. Bad luck for me, I didn't get any retirements. But next step is you can make those retirements and send them off to one of these prizes. Each prize has a cost, right? There's £20, £14, £8. These are the upkeep costs. Remember, we pay upkeep at the end of each turn. And this is the number of victory points. So, Crown's got 1 pensioner. They can afford to retire 1 pensioner. For each pensioner that they retire, they're going to spend at most half their money. They've got £24, so they're going to spend at most £12 on a retirement. Okay. If you've got multiple pensioners in here, you could be splitting them up. There is also a £2 box. It has no upkeep and it doesn't give any victory points. So you might say, why do you want to go there? The reason why is because each turn whoever spends the most on retirements gets first choice at the London season. In order to pick a card from the London season display, you must have had at least one retiree. So let's say I had one retiree, but I only had £3 in the bank. Then I couldn't afford this, but I might still spend £2 on this just so I could get to pick from the London season. Okay. At the moment, without any retirements, I don't get to pick from this display at all. So that's what that box is all about. Anyway, Crown has one retiree. They've got £12 to spend. They'll spend as much as they can on each one. So they're going to put one pensioner here in this box. It's going to cost them £8. So they'll spend 8. And that's going to give them 4 victory points. And we'll record those straight away on this victory point track. So 4 victory points, keeping a running tally here for the Crown. Okay, there we are. So they're currently winning now with 4 victory points. So that's retirements. That's how it works. That's how you get your victory points. Now the final part of London season is prestige cards. So whoever spent the most money on prizes gets first pick. Anyone who didn't spend doesn't get a pick at all. Now there's 3 cards to choose from. And once more, we're going to use the AI card that's currently face up to determine which one they pick. It's going to be the leftmost one, the shaded one. Okay, so they're going to pick tax collectors. And they're going to take this and place it in the player area. Now, any text on here for a face-up prestige card, this enterprise in the Crown's player area, is effective for the Crown. But there is a little clarification in the rule. It says if the text says they may do something, they choose not to. And on this one, it says, with Prime Minister's consent, you may treat the proposed policy as if it includes an additional window tax, and if says here, if you win the vote as opposition leader, you may add an additional window tax. So with mays in there, tax collector's not going to do anything for the Crown other than give her one workshop manufacturing enterprise icon in her player area. Okay. Yeah, it's a shame we didn't have any retirees. But the Director of Trade office is now vacant, so it's going to come up for hiring. We're going to do family phase next, skip firm phase obviously, and then this position of Director of Trade is going to get rehired, chosen by the chairman, and the candidates, it says on the back of the card, are any office except governors or the chairman. So any of these offices could then get promoted into Director of Trade, and the position is chosen by the chairman, which is the Crown. So we're going to see how the Crown chooses to hire a Director of Trade. That's it then. We'll wrap up. Join me next time and we'll continue the playthrough in turn 2.